All right, we are going to call the Planning Commission meeting to order. If we could all stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. I
pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Molly, if you could help us out with the roll call, please.
Yep. Mayor Atwell.
Present.
Alderperson Eicher.
Here.
Cahalan.
Here.
Greenway.
Here.
Jashinsky.
Here.
Merrick.
Here.
Schultz.
Here.
Weiler.
Here.
Thank you. Looking for a motion for approval of the minutes of July 28th, 2021.
Move to approve the minutes.
I'll second.
All right, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions? Passes. Okay, we had a public hearing that was scheduled for tonight, but the applicant has withdrawn it. So we'll be skipping the public hearing and we will move into number 6, citizens' comments on consent agenda items only. Any comments on the consent agenda? Seeing none, consent agenda, citizens' comments are now closed. Okay, we have 2 items on the consent agenda. Do we have a motion?
I'll move to pull item B off
Item B off.
and move to approve the consent agenda for item A.
Second.
All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions? Passes?
Can you just confirm who had the second, please? I thought so. Thank you.
Okay. 7B. Molly, did you have something on that? Or
Amy?
Molly on the brain.
Okay, so I just wanted to add this to the agenda, and I believe Charlie, the applicant's on Zoom, if you have any questions. So I provided you a staff report. Olive Garden did revise their signage. They made a few signs larger, specifically the ones on the west and south elevations. I wrote in the staff report that they removed the sign, which is on the east elevation, which on the screen you will see is letter C on this on the document itself. They are actually proposing to keep that sign. They just didn't include it in the packet because they weren't making changes. So they just want to make sure that that's clear, that I wrote and removed. They are keeping it. So they will have 402.37 square feet of signage rather than the 352 that I mentioned, and 552 square feet allowed, so they still comply with the ordinance.
All right, I'll move to approve the signage program for Olive Garden contingent upon the lighting requirements are met.
Second.
All right, any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions? Passes. Okay, so the full consent agenda is now passed. And are you for citizens' comments, or are you on the consent agenda? Just here, okay. Oh, gotcha. Okay. All right, we will move on to number 8, citizens' comments on items other than the consent agenda, items in public hearing. That means basically anything else you want to talk about. Susie, you're first.
I brought the chicken one, so I don't have to be reminded 5 minutes, correct?
The chair keeps the time.
Am I correct, it's 5 minutes?
We'll cap you at 5 minutes today, Susie.
Susie Marie Alana Rochelle Thompson, Get Smart. 700 Milwaukee Street. I'm here to talk about fish bones. Many of you are business owners or business management. Many of you come from military families, and you know what it's like to run a tight ship. You know if you're not successful, you won't succeed. If you don't have the support of the people around you, you won't go anywhere. 2020 took us all to our knees. There were very few new things happening in the world, much less in Delafield. Some businesses did well. Some, the employees, were appreciated, and people locally made a point of telling them how much they were appreciated. My mom raised 6 kids in 10 years, born in 10 years. She ran a very tight ship. My dad was former military. My son is medical with Navy SEALs. And I'm a tough mom. I believe in watching the chicken. That's 4 minutes. I'm here to support Zins because Zins had foresight, Fishbones, thank you, Laura. Fishbones and Zins, but Jesse with Fishbones. They had foresight to do some new things, as a few businesses did with money that was given during tough times, and they expanded a deck. Many businesses did other things to expand. Tonight, you're going to talk about a business plan. I've gone through meeting minutes for many years, and because I'm a realtor, I can look at tax records. I've looked at what people paid, how long they've been there, and so forth. What was there when you moved there? We've been in Delafield 4 years. Things have changed. The sidewalk is 6 foot from my house. So I'm used to hearing people at night. I'm not offended by changes around me. I think if somebody bought a home and they're by Fishbones, and that was a bar before it was Fishbones, I think they were used to bikers, is what several people have told me, that it was a biker crowd. I own a motorcycle, so I don't protest motorcycles. It's an autocycle. But the point being, sometimes things are louder, and sometimes times change. And we can control the volume to an extent. And I've got 2 minutes, Mayor. My point being, if you're going to tighten the ship on one business, please look at all the businesses that we have in the city. You cannot pick on one business and say they're right or wrong if you're not auditing other businesses. My mom used to say, let's play nice in the sandbox. Be careful who you're playing with and who they're going to become later. I think we have some really phenomenal people trying to make Delafield successful. I personally greet people. In the last month, I've greeted people from 9 different states that came to Delafield specifically to come to Delafield. So we're doing good things about promoting the city. Let's continue to promote it. And I'm done, and I had a minute left.
All righty, thank you for your comments. Who would like to be next?
Timer. Your timer.
I know, I'm leaving it in case somebody else wants time.
What's going to happen when it goes off?
Okay, who'd like to speak next during citizens' comments? Come on up.
Thank you. Set the timer.
Hi, my name is Colleen Costigan, and I have lived in Delafield the last 50 years.
May I get your address, please?
Yes, I live at 1613 Milwaukee Street.
Thank you.
I've been here 50 years. My dad, my mom, and I own the barber shop in town, and I live at 1613 Milwaukee Street, which is directly across the street from Fishbones. I've been living there 23 years. When Dennis bought the building, he was told that he had to keep the noise inside because it was in a residential neighborhood. And I have a letter that I just found that I wrote to the Planning Commission. It's dated February 13th, 2006. I'm just going to read one paragraph. Dear Delafield Planning Commission, my name is Colleen Costigan. I am writing you this letter regarding the proposed change of business operation at Fishbones Restaurant. They have requested that they be allowed to increase their operations to include outdoor dining. There never was outdoor dining. It became approved. I was against it. I said no because of the noise. The noise is very loud outside. And the deck went on, and the noise got louder. And then the deck got bigger, and the noise got louder. So I am against extended hours. I am against a ban. Fishbones is in the middle of a residential neighborhood, and it doesn't belong there. This is like your neighbor, wherever you live, right next to you, every night having a party. It starts at 4:30, and 100 people show up. And then now every Saturday night, your neighbor is going to have a band show up. So it's too loud as it is. Dennis owns Zinn's in Delafield, which is in the business district. So if he wants to have a band, put it in the business district. So I am asking that you please vote no for any extended use of this outside deck that should have never happened in 2006 or any more noise in the neighborhood. Thank you very much.
Thank you for your comments. Okay, anybody else like to speak during citizens? Come on up, sir.
Hello, I'm Gary Schroeder, live at 352 Woodbury Drive, and I also own Earth Care Window Treatments, 613 Main Street. Relocated the business and moved out here close to 16 years ago. I was very impressed with the small town atmosphere. My business has done well out here. I got through COVID okay, being in the business that I'm in. My main concern was all the local restaurants, which took the biggest hit by far, and it's good to see that everybody pulled through, including Zinn and Fishbones. I think part of that has to do with the way they've recreated the outdoor dining experience at both restaurants. And I can also say, we like to go out Saturday nights. There's not a lot to do here as far as entertainment on Saturday nights. It'd be nice to have a local venue that would have bands. And I think if a band played till 10 o'clock, not going to keep too many people awake, especially if the volume was regulated. So that's my thoughts on it. I'll keep it short and sweet.
Great. Well, thank you for your comments. Come on up. We'll have you next.
Jim Stouffer, 637 Main Street in Delafield. You may know us as Holy Cow. My next door neighbor is Dennis and Jesse from Zinn. And they have speakers outside and they play music. And I have to tell you that my bedroom is not even a dart throw from their speakers. And only once I went and said, do you mind turning it down at 10 o'clock so I can sleep? They turned it down, and it's never been a problem since, and that's probably been 3 years. They're very respectful. And I think if the neighbors talk to them and just say, you know, we go to bed at 10 o'clock, can you make sure that at that time the music comes down? And that's a reasonable thing to ask. I think they'll comply with that. I really do. They've been very compliant to us, and we enjoy their music. Now on the big festival day, they'll put a band out there that makes noise, but even that they shut down by the time I'm going to bed. So I'll give them the positive vote on this one.
Thank you.
Great. Thank you for your comments. Any other citizens' comments? Any other citizens' comments? Hearing none, citizens.
Nothing, Zoom, just make sure.
Oh, yeah, let me check 1 second.
Good catch.
If anybody is on Zoom and would like to make a comment, if they could unmute themselves and raise their hand, we can go ahead and go through that. Otherwise, I'm not seeing anybody. Last call for Zoom, unmuting yourself or raising your hand. You know what, I'll go to actually see the people here. Can you unshare your screen there? So I can, all right. Turn on your camera, raise your hand, wave if you want to speak on Zoom. All right, I'm not seeing anybody.
All right, we don't have anybody on Zoom, so citizens' comments are now closed. Okay, we'll move on to number 9, unfinished business. DLC 0624004001, 34300 Valley Road, owner applicant Benjamin and Jacqueline Knuckles. Applicant is requesting approval of a boathouse. Are the Knuckles here? Are they representatives?
Hi there, this is Jackie Knuckles. I'm on via Zoom.
On Zoom, okay.
Okay, hold on a second. I will share my screen. Thought I did.
And if you can give us just your address as well, please.
Our current address is 1555 Pumpkin Path in Oconomowoc, but it will be 34300 Valley Road in Delafield when construction is complete.
Got it, thank you.
Okay, so at the last meeting, the Plan Commission did review the Knuckles Boathouse and proposed rain garden. I won't go into those details. You did approve the boathouse in general. You just wanted the rain garden to come back for your review because it was being proposed on a slope, and we didn't have the specific size requirement, so they just kind of showed a green area. Their packet did include the species, and the species are acceptable. It's just a matter of whether or not the size works. So I have been working with the applicant over the last month. One provision was Scott could issue an approval for them to start their foundation if they submitted the materials early enough. We've been working throughout the entire month and they just submitted this, so that's why it wasn't even in the packet. So they don't have any permits to get an early start at this point. So they did revise their garden. I did need to reach out to our engineer. I know we don't do that typically for rain gardens, but it was the grading plan wasn't making sense to me. So we got to a point where he reviewed it and was able to recommend that they reduce the size of the rain garden pretty significantly. So it only needs to be, per the DNR requirements, like 53 square feet. They're proposing a 90 square foot rain garden. It's about 18 feet long, I'll say, by 5 feet wide. And then it'll be 8 to 12 inches deep. And based on their proposed revised grading plan, that will work on this slope. I guess, and then they are going to pitch the roof toward the rain garden and have their downspout go to it. That's how the water will actually run, because it is kind of uphill of the boathouse itself. So it all works. Our engineer is not concerned with its functionality. The only, it will require some grading because they are proposing it on a slope. So they are going to have to do a little grading to make this work.
And Scott, that'd be something you checked during the construction of the boathouse, right?
I will.
Did you have any comments you wanted to add, Scott?
No, because I'm just going to confirm the rain garden size, the location, the depth, and the ability for that boathouse structure to discharge runoff to the rain garden.
One more comment I will raise is they're tying the proposed grades into existing grades right at the lot line. So I know the owner's online. I don't know if the applicant is or a landscaper, but you have to be real careful because you can't be grading on adjacent properties. So you got to make sure that you're tying those grades in.
I don't know if you can hear me or not, but this is Tom from Ground Effects. If there's any questions, I'm here for that as well.
Did you want to repeat that question?
Tom, did you hear my comment about making sure you tie the grades in before you
Yeah,
cross the
and
lot line?
I did show that on the grading plan that the grades are going to tie back in to the existing grade on the lot line.
Yeah, they do. They're just right on the lot line. So
Is this the east or
Yeah,
west lot?
and I kind of tried to follow the same grading plan that was existing just to tie everything back in. But we will be aware of that.
okay.
Is that the east lot line or the west lot line of the subject property?
West.
Okay.
Can you just give us your address for the record, please?
Tom, that is.
Oh, okay. W1526 Freilich Road, Sullivan.
Great, thank you.
See where that is?
Yeah, no, I think that's fine. I mean, that's the person who subdivided the land. So I mean, I think they'll probably have a friendly person to deal with. I'll make a motion to approve the boathouse as presented with the contingent upon the 7 items listed in the planner's letter dated July 22nd.
Second.
I'm sorry, was there a second?
Dave.
Dave
Dave.
seconded, okay.
Yeah.
Any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions? Passes. Great, you're approved.
Oh, finally did.
Well, thank you very much.
Yes. Enjoy the boathouse.
Oh, I sure plan to.
Alrighty, we will move on to number 10, new business. 10A, DLC 079 7084 1704 Milwaukee Street. Owner applicant Sobchak Development, 1704 LLC. Dennis Sobchak. Applicant is requesting to amend an existing business plan of operation for Fishbone Cajun Creole Restaurant to allow for an extended outdoor use. The applicants like to come up. You just state your name and address for the record.
Jesse Souza, I live on 3rd Street, 1515 3rd Street, up the hill from the Fishbones. I'm one of the owners too.
And my name's Silver Mitchell. I'm the general manager at Fishbones Cajun Creole Restaurant, 1704 Milwaukee Street.
Okay.
If I can start a little first, I live up in the street, like I said. I'm the neighbor, so everybody that lives up the neighborhood are my neighbors. My kids grew up in the neighborhood. My kids play with everybody's kids in the neighborhood. We have meetings in the neighborhood because I belong to an association, because we have a pier down below. I wish somebody would have come up to us and say, hey, we have this concerns. The music's too loud, it's 10 o'clock, 10:30. Whatever the issue was that they had, they could have come up to us and asked. We're reasonable men. We talk to anyone that needs to talk to us. If there's an issue with anything, we would have addressed it. We don't have a problem coming to the Plan Commission and talk about these issues, but we could have handled it also in the neighborhood. As I see my neighbors every morning when they walk up the hill with their dogs or walking down, I see them and say goodbye, say hello to them. So that's a little discouraging, a little bit of kind of like a slap in the face, because I live up the street. I'm making a living for my kids also and for myself. We don't stay late with the music. We need to have certain things up there, the lighting and all those things. And so we'll get into that based on safety and other concerns that we have also too. We don't have a band. We have either one musician that plays the guitar with acoustics or 2 people at the most. That's all we have. We don't have, a 5-man band with drums and all these different things. So I'll let Silver take over and she'll explain our plan. Thank you.
Good, thank you.
I'd like to start off first with thanking you guys and everybody else attending for taking time to hear our proposed business plan amendment. Fishbones is the oldest restaurant in Delafield. We just celebrated our 21st anniversary. We've owned the property for almost 25 years, and it's zoned for commercial with no conditional permits on it. Before we purchased it, it was a pub that was stayed open till bar time. The majority of the neighbors that reside in that area have been here well before Fishbones was established, and other people have purchased property just to be near us. One of Jesse's brand new neighbors moved to our area because they want to be here for Fishbones. We believe that those residing near a property zoned for commercial purchase their residency with expectations, and we believe that we met and exceeded those expectations. We have always been tried to be good neighbors and conscious of our surrounding neighborhood. The city received a singular complaint that addressed that we were not following our business plan of operation. We were unaware of that and that we were not following it related to the hours on the patio, but once we were informed, we stopped immediately, with the exception that we're obligated to keep our customers safe. Our current business plan is to have music, lights, and service discontinued at 10 p.m. We'd like to amend our business plan to allow us to keep our patio open until our customers have completed their experience. The lighting on the existing patio is less wattage than what we used to have, and we have added a dimmer to accommodate our neighbors and the safety of our customers. The patio is not visible on the south nor the west side, and the north side faces the lake. On the east side, the closest residence based on the map provided, they're at least 60 feet away from us. The patio has our handicap ramp on it, and it is the only entrance we have for our handicapping space and for our employees to enter. If we turn off the lighting on the patio, we risk our customers and our employees. Not only do I see this as a physical risk, I also see it as a criminal risk. On August 10th at 10:49, I contacted the local police department because there was a young man walking around the property that's been tore down next to us and then through our neighbors' yards. So we would like to propose to seat new customers up until 9:15 p.m. on our patio and have our lighting turned down when our final customer on the patio leaves and turned off after the final customer in the restaurant leaves. Finally, we'd like to amend our business plan to allow us to have live music on our patio. The The city planner did refer to us as having bands. We don't want to have bands. We just want to have one musician or two at the most. Our closest neighbor, located on the east side of Fishbones, doesn't wish to be involved with this situation, but they let us know how much they love our music and the fact that they can't hear it unless they come and visit our establishment. You guys all know what happened last year. March 17th, 2020, we had to shut down Zinn due to COVID. We struggled a lot in those 3 months, and sorry, it's a long year. We struggled a lot in the next 3 months, and when we opened Zinn back up, we didn't know if we were going to be able to keep both restaurants alive. We spent everything that we had to improve our outdoor dining to accommodate this, but our restaurants kept struggling. We're really blessed to have both restaurants still, but not without much sleepless nights and hard work. We want to be a destination, not a second choice. We are the only business on Lake Nagawicca, which is a huge part of Delafield. We want to do everything that we can to keep our businesses and Delafield alive. So please vote yes to amending our business plan, and please vote yes to keeping our family in business.
Thank you very much.
Okay. So Fishbones received approval in 2016 to expand the deck. They've obviously been operating a lot longer than that, but they did expand the outdoor deck. As part of that, they added globe lighting, which you can see out on the property. And then they did request to play non-live background music. And then they also suggested that they were going to add landscaping. They didn't do that until recently, but just, I believe, in the last week, they put landscaping out. It looks really nice, and I did take a few pictures of it. So they have landscaping on the east side of the property here. I don't know what kind of shrubbery that is, if it grows taller or not.
It'll grow up like 5 inches all the way to the level of the deck.
Okay. So, I mean, the original proposal said landscaping for screening. What I will say is there is a natural screen on the lot line between the adjacent property and this use. So that's something to consider, whether or not it has to be screening or just the aesthetic improvement. This is significantly more attractive than what was there a couple of weeks ago. So it does look really nice.
We had a contractor, but obviously you guys know, I mean, everything's taking long. I mean, it took us this long to get them to do the job, but we had it set up maybe 3-4 months ago when we did a contract with them to fix the front and make it look nice and pretty. So.
And then here's a picture of the front. The front looks really nice. There's really no reason to screen the front of the deck, but just again to make it more attractive. So they did get the landscaping accomplished, and then the Plan Commission approved their proposal in 2016, subject to lights, service, and music being turned off by 10 p.m. And again, regarding the music, it was the applicant that came in to you to request the non-live background music. So we did receive some complaints that there was some live music, and in addition to that, even when it wasn't live music and lighting and service that was going past 10 o'clock p.m. The police department did verify that. I called Dennis. He did stop the activities right away, other than he did say when there's somebody out there and they're dining and they sit down, he can't just force them to move after 10 o'clock. So he did ask if he could come in here and seek an amendment, which he certainly has the right to do. And he is requesting to modify those outdoor services to include seating guests until 9:15 and then allowing them to finish dinner. So he's not proposing an end time, and that the lighting would be turned off at the time guests leave. And he's also proposing acoustic music on the deck and agrees to turn off that music by 10 p.m. And the applicant would have the musicians face the lake to reduce the noise. I do have in the report that he suggests the music will not permeate the surrounding neighborhood. He did amend that statement. That's obviously almost an impossible task to meet. So his goal, my understanding, is to reduce that noise permeation as much as possible. They also say that they'll generally have one musician, perhaps two at the most at any given time. So I would ask that you consider and take action. I do just state in here that if you are going to approve the request, just consider, I think we need to be more specific because there were some it's a little unclear what live bands mean versus acoustic music, what the hours of operation mean. So just consider the hours of activity specifically regarding seating, lighting, and music. And then when I refer to the type of music, I mean live versus acoustic versus, or a band versus acoustic 1 to 2 players versus speaker, music just being piped from the inside.
Amy, how many complaints? You said some complaints. Do you have a number? Do you know how many?
I believe we were receiving them from one individual and then just received letters of concern for the meeting.
Yeah, okay.
I have a few questions. As I remember, we approved a house that was supposed to be built right next to them on East.
It was proposed, I don't believe we approved
Yeah, I don't believe it was ever approved.
Nope.
Was it?
It was proposed.
It was proposed, we didn't.
Yeah, we discussed it. They needed to do some more
Because
work,
I remember
and
the
then they never
architecture
came
of it,
back.
and the plan for it. I know there were
But
two plans.
that's the intent, someday there will be a house
Yeah.
there.
I remember the first one, there was two plans. The second one was for a single house, the other one was for like a duplex.
Yeah.
So it was never approved, but we can feel that in some point in time there could be a house right there.
Yeah, one would expect that would be the case.
Yeah. So that's where my concern is.
To the east, you said?
Yes, to the east. Right now they're parking like piers or something in there, I know in
Now,
the,
they put a pole barn up back there
Way in the
last year. I don't know what their long-term plans are.
Wow.
They put a brand-new pole barn or
so
pole
that would be
building
my
up.
biggest concern because the house would be really close to them. So I think that
Are you
instead
talking
of,
about this property right here, Laura?
Yeah.
yes, the
Yeah,
hockey stick. It's shaped like a hockey stick.
Their purchase and proposal was after there was already music and
Yeah,
outdoor seating
yeah,
on the
yeah.
lot next
So
to
they
it.
But
knew it was there.
never was clear whether this was going to be like a spec house or whether this was going to be their personal home. So there's the rub for me too. Because I have neighbors that that get up at 4:30 in the morning, so they go to bed at 9 o'clock. That's where some of this comes in. And is the music going to be amplified at all?
I'm sorry?
Is the music that you propose going to be amplified?
All of our
There-
previous musicians have had speakers, yes.
But again, we're saying we're going to be done by 10 o'clock. We're not saying we're going to stay until midnight. Now, what's the ordinance in the city of Delafield for, like, if I live up the street, if I have music in my house on a Saturday night, what's the latest I can stay with my music on? This is Saturday night. This is not during the week where you have
Yeah,
to work
yeah.
on Sunday morning. There's a lot of people that work on Sundays. Not everybody works on Sunday. I'm not saying
Right.
some people don't.
Right.
So we're
And
not
I'm up
being.
early to go to church.
I understand that, but church is not at 4 in the morning.
Yeah. I'm just trying to really understand where the limits here are and if they step out of bounds, what type of recourse does the city have? Because this could, I'm not saying you.
No, I understand your point.
I want to be cautious
Sure.
because it's not just you, it's the neighborhood.
And I live in the neighborhood also,
Right,
too.
and I
So,
realize
you know,
that.
my point is that
But you have neighbors
I
that,
agree. I'm not saying. I wish
Yeah.
they would have come up to us and
Right.
talked to us. That's all I was hoping for. But at the same time, you know, we're telling you that we're gonna have either 1 or 2 musicians.
Yeah.
We had music maybe, 2, 3 times? And it hasn't been like, oh my God, this is a band, this is a rock band, they're just banging against the walls.
yeah.
No, we're not gonna allow to have that. We are just having either one musician with a guitar, electric guitar. There's somebody maybe when there's 2, there's one on a keyboard and singing. That's all we
Yeah.
have. We're not
Right.
having a full-size band.
Is
So
it-
that's gotta be outdoors, you know, keep saying band. To me, a band is a full-size band. Summerfest, State Fair, big band. That's a band to me.
Yeah, I know, because I live on the other side of the freeway. I can hear every time there's something going on downtown when they have
Sure, you
music.
can-
All the way to my house, I can hear it.
Is
So-
it music on Saturday only?
Only on Saturdays.
Only on Saturdays.
Yeah, Saturday.
Okay,
So not Friday nights either?
No,
okay,
Saturday.
right.
Is that what it specifically says
about-
on the request, Amy?
No, it doesn't say that.
So that was my
Yeah.
question, days of the week. And then
Right,
currently, based on existing business plan of operation, they asked for music outside, amplified music on an outdoor patio, is what we've got in the record right now.
It says.
Is there any particular day restrictions for that has been in existence or not?
Decibels.
10 p.m.
And no days of the week
Right.
restrictions for that? Okay.
How long, for the newbie, how long has this facility been a bar-type environment? How many years?
Oh, jeez.
Yeah.
Long
We have
time.
pictures of a restaurant where it was a
Probably.
resort in the early 40s.
Yeah, I figured that was probably the answer,
So
but I wanted
They
to
used to, where all the condos are, they used to be a bait shop, a boat rental, all kinds of stuff back in the day.
Yeah.
When Dennis bought the property, almost 25 years prior to that, it'd been a bar for who knows how long, I don't even know. I've been only here almost 21 years in Delafield. So that's been like a bar, restaurant, a resort for
Yeah.
almost 100 years.
Okay. I say, I'll just say, yeah, it's debatable whether Fishbones is a more intense use
Yeah.
than what was there before. It was a kind of a rundown bar.
Yeah.
And it did not have an outdoor patio, but they did rent boats, and so you could argue that they got started too early in the morning too, because they were renting
Well,
boats
I
right
bring-
at 5 in the morning.
Channel Inn was
I bring
across
that
the
up
street.
because it's relevant, in my opinion.
It
because
absolutely
When you
is.
have
So-
been there that long, you're not moving into a subdivision. You're moving into a mixed-use environment, you know? and
Yeah. And it-
So that's the only reason I asked that question.
Well,
Makes
right
total
across the
sense.
street, there used to be
Yeah.
another bar.
Say that.
Oh,
There was a
Channel Inn.
bar across the
Yeah.
street.
Yeah.
The
And we are
lighthouse
zoned
is-
commercial.
So
Yeah.
it helps
For
us
calling
to
condos.
define what's reasonable as far as what the neighbors are going to expect, and that's really,
Right.
and I would not take it personally who somebody reached out to elevate their concerns, whether they called the city or not. It's,
No, I don't. I just
I
wish
know.
they would have came up to me and asked me. I see my neighbors on a daily basis.
It almost
They wave
never-
at me, they say, hello, my kids had a sleepover with some of these
But
kids.
again, it's not.
That's all I'm asking.
I bet it's not personal. It's just
No.
they
No,
just
I'm
felt
not
it would be a way to kind of bring it to a head maybe and get it resolved. So I'm concerned about the lack of clarity. There's a lot of, like saying you're going to seat somebody at 9:15 and let them sit out there till they're done.
It could be midnight.
I understand the purpose and the point, but the outdoor dining is an addition to what had been there previously, and it is.
I would like to say for the
Yeah.
record, we can actually seat more people on our patio than we can inside of our restaurant. There's more seats out on our patio. The not being able to seat it because of a time restriction, it hinders our business. It hinders us from being successful.
But also, we're talking about Saturday night, people in Delafield is shut down by 9 o'clock. Anywhere you walk around in Delafield.
I know.
I live here for 20 years, so I know.
Yeah.
So there's days where we're done at 9 o'clock, 9:30 on a Saturday night.
Yeah.
We're going into a full winter coming up soon. It's not like the patio's going to be an issue, again.
Right.
Not that it was an issue, but I understand that, if we want to be able to have a little bit of entertainment outside of our facility too, because that's where we are.
Yeah.
You guys go to the restaurants, have a good time. We've been in COVID for a year. Everybody's hibernated. They were locked down for a year. People just want to go out and have a little good time.
People don't come to Fishbones for the lack of noise.
No, I know. Trust me, I've enjoyed Fishbone since before I moved here 20 years ago. So, but I'm looking for clarity because that's what this is about. I mean, that's we're trying to pin down times and
Do you feel
activity.
the 9:15 cutoff is not?
But it has no end time.
Yeah.
Yeah. There's where I go.
So like we,
With the reasoning of is you can't sit there and tell somebody that's enjoying their last glass of wine that they have to get up and leave now because our patio's closing.
Well,
Oh, I've been places where they've done that.
I've never been kicked off anybody's patio.
Well, hopefully we haven't got to that point.
what
where
would be your
people are-
expectation if you
Yeah.
seat someone at 9:15? Are you thinking at 10 they're going to be? Or is it just?
It probably an hour, from where we put them, 10, 15, 10:30, the latest.
so the question is, so
Yes.
if music is a hard stop at 10,
At 10 o'clock, yes.
and that guests are to be up and gone off the patio at 10:30, that's something that's manageable.
Absolutely.
Okay, 'cause-
We don't see any issue with that.
and is that
The
something
real
that you're looking
question
for?
is how late the music plays, right?
I get it. I
It's
get
not
it. But
how
also-
late people sit there. It's how late the music.
But again,
Understood.
once people leave, we need to leave the lights on a little bit longer. Our employees are leaving through that side. Delafield can get pretty dark at night.
Yeah.
To shut down the lights and say, we got dimmers, we can lower the lights, put it as slow as it can go besides turning them off.
Right.
And let the employees get on their cars and go home.
So is this a time, if you think that sounds reasonable, is that a time that you're looking for just Saturdays, or is it Friday, Saturdays, or is it any day of the week? I mean.
Right now, it's Saturday right now. We're just trying to survive, to keep making a living for us.
Music-wise, Saturday.
Yeah, music is
Dining-wise.
just Saturday. That's what we propose, that's what we're looking for.
Okay.
We didn't say Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, any day of the week, or just Saturday
Because
night.
frankly, I mean, amplified music, I bet bands are louder than what
Sure.
you play over the speakers,
Sure.
but also when we get into discussions about noise,
Sure.
it's very arbitrary, right? I mean,
I understand that. There's some
we get
musicians
noise
that are very
complaints,
low-key.
It's too loud for someone, it's not too loud for someone
We had a
else,
young
it's
lady
not loud
there a
enough.
couple, month ago, and she was very low-key. We had guys that are a little louder. I agree. I'm not disputing that. I just want to have a little bit of a.
And so Amy, part of what you put in here is
thing here that goes
is a request for us to consider the type of music. I don't even know how to do that.
residents across the street.
Yeah, I mean,
What's
I
your
guess.
favorite music?
So I think you
Elevator
can,
music?
I think you can start with whether or not, so when I think of, when they say light, no live music, light background, to me, that probably meant that they were piping music out of the building. So I think the first question would be, are they only allowed to pipe music from within the building to outside? Or can they have the acoustic music? And then if they can have acoustic music, can it be amplified? I would maybe start there. Some ordinances will say that you can't exceed a certain decibel limit at a lot line, but that is
Very
super,
hard.
No, we
super,
can't do it.
that's
We've
what I'm
tried.
saying, super hard to
I've
regulate.
tried.
So those would probably be your best parameters, whether or not it needs to be. I mean, how important is the amplification of it? Because, just having live music in that small space might be.
I mean, but it's wide open. It's not echoing through the. Again, there's some musicians that we have, and again, there's only one or two, and we had young ladies that come in, and their voice is very low, very mild tone, and then there's some guys that they play a little bit, just
Louder.
their voice just carries more. Not that we're asking them to, stop here playing Van Halen and then this band. We want a nice soft music that represents our style of food and our restaurant that we have. Cajun style music, and it's not loud, it's not obnoxious, and the people are going to say, what's going on here? And we propose it until 10 o'clock with the live music and let our patrons finish their meal in their patio. It's a beautiful summer night. They don't want to just say, okay, now folks, got to get your plate, you got to go inside. And that's where you got to finish your food.
Do we have any precedent of a two-piece acoustic small amplification? Any scope that
You're
describes
asking
that?
me, I'm too new here. I mean, downtown in like the CBD1
Well,
area,
I
there's
was 2
certainly
weeks
live
ago. I was
music.
at Belfry, and they had
Yeah.
one guy on a stage. He had a little amplification playing a guitar.
Yes,
So what's that scope? How's that defined?
she does have approval for live music. I don't know what the provisions are, but she is in the CBD1 district, so I wouldn't. They're not apples. We're not comparing apples to apples.
The
there.
closest one I can remember is when Angelina's was looking for just some music outside. This is about 8 years ago, maybe.
Yeah.
And I don't even know if it was Angelina's. It might have been the restaurant.
It was the
just
one
prior-
before.
It was
prior
the
to
one
them.
before, yeah.
And it was to accommodate the neighbors' concerns, and there's a hard stop for outdoor music, even though it's just over speakers.
Yeah.
And for when, I don't know if they have to kick the people out or if it's just they stop serving at a certain time, but it was somewhere, I think it was 10:30
Yeah.
for just the outdoor pipe music, or 10. And so I don't think this isn't totally new ground, but I mean.
Well, and then you have 7 Cs. I mean that.
Well, that's a different story. They had very loud
Seven
music.
Seas is closed.
You would think
It's closed, but I mean it's surrounded by residents.
two-piece acoustic with one speaker amplification. I mean, we don't want to write a spec here, but you would think that's enough to kind of put a framework around it, wouldn't you?
I'd be very much in favor of having something put in place for a year and have it be reapplied for next year to extend it
That's what I
permanently.
was thinking.
And just let you
Trial.
do what you're doing at your discretion with the 10 and 10:30
Yeah.
restriction for music on Saturdays. You know what I mean? So,
Kind of a trial.
and just have it come up next year, and we'll deal with, if you have, one individual that absolutely hates it, and that's just something that is going to be a situation indefinitely. We can weigh what one person against the world is versus an entire area. You know what I mean?
No, I do understand that.
But I mean, I don't know if that's my thought on
I
it, because
feel
if
the
we
same
try to
way.
define
Try
something
it.
as far as decibels and number of people and type of speaker, we end
That's
up
not
going down a road we can't even define.
Yeah, the only thing I would say too is, if you're gonna frame a type of music, acoustics typically non-amplified or non-electric. So if you're gonna have keyboards there, you're looking at more light style music. I would be concerned if we say acoustic and now someone has a keyboard there. It could be violating then that regulation. So that would be the one concern I would have. I personally think you're doing what you're trying to do to keep business going, and that's respectable. And I think if you have the timeline of what you're looking for, that's also being respectable. And I agree with revisiting it in 1 year from now.
Just to think ahead and in transparency, but what if July 4th is a Wednesday or Tuesday? I don't know what next year is, but is Saturdays do you say
You can
holidays
apply
and
for a
Sat-
special event
Okay.
permit
Okay.
anytime they want.
Then you have to remember to do that.
Yeah, will do.
So you want to do an annual review, but are there any provisions tied to
I
it?
think only once, right?
Well, the music has to stop at 10 o'clock, right?
Yeah.
Servings.
And I don't think we
servings.
care how long people sit out there, right?
I really don't see that being an issue, with
we
people
don't.
being respectable.
Yeah.
The prior
And
one
I've
had,
been here
like
for
I said, we dim the lights too. We have an ambiance. It's not we have this blaring stadium lights out
so
there.
prior the lights had to be off at 10 o'clock. We found that they probably need them on a little bit longer, so bright lights off at 10 o'clock, only dimmed after.
Yeah,
That makes sense?
yeah.
Serving stops at 9:15.
Yeah, I think those provisions, stop serving at 9:15, dim the
Sorry.
lights at 10.
Seating at
Seating
9:15?
at
Or seating, I'm sorry.
Yeah, seating.
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 Well,
Well, it's kind of the same thing almost.
And this isn't annual, it's just,
Yeah, it's a
Once.
1-year trial, and hopefully it would
Yep.
be, if
Yeah,
it
just-
goes well,
then
then
it just.
it would become permanent, or
Permanent.
if there's
Right.
repeated issues that are brought up, well, it'll have to be rediscussed, I guess.
Yep.
So is this music limited to Saturdays?
yes.
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 Saturday
Live
nights.
music.
And request, how do we want to handle special events? I don't know that we do that for anybody else.
Sure. Oh, right?
But
What
through
about
process?
Saturdays and holidays? I mean, do you
Through
just
what
wait?
process?
Isn't there a special event permit?
Well, you
like,
can
if you wanna
file
have-
one online for like $50, but is that what we want to do?
I mean, do you want to just say and
What if you're gonna-
holidays?
I'd say, why not just say?
Saturdays and
holiday?
holidays with the same restrictions.
Yeah.
I would,
Yeah.
because if
That's
July
a good
4th
idea.
is a Friday
Yeah,
night.
you don't want to box yourself in where,
No, I understand.
yeah.
And I don't think you'd
Memorial
be
Day
out
is
there
coming up,
Christmas.
that's usually
My
on a
birthday
Monday.
count?
We close on Christmas Eve and Christmas Day. We need to spend
Cinco
time
de
with them.
Mayo counts as a holiday
Yeah,
too.
well, that it does too.
Okay.
We don't have mariachi there.
Stop live music at 10 p.m., limited to Saturdays and holidays. Is it acoustic only and it can be amplified? If we get complaints, we need to be able to respond whether or not
Well,
they're
the
complying.
comment on acoustic was, what if it's a little keyboard? That's not
Yeah,
acoustic.
that's
so
not
you have to-
considered acoustic.
Correct.
Two-piece?
You're
Could we
looking-
two-piece live? I don't know.
Low volume,
Low volume
two-piece.
two-piece. What's the definition of low volume?
You know, we want it to be clear to the neighbors, we want it
Right.
to be clear
Yeah.
to the owner,
Yeah,
and
you
we want
gotta
it to be reasonable, right? That's
Yes.
all.
And that's what we want. We want to be respectful to the neighborhoods and
Right.
be fair to us too at the same time.
Maybe you just say no more than two-piece, because, I mean,
If you can frame it in a style of music, a light style music, something of that nature.
Yeah,
So-
it's contemporary low.
Correct, right.
It's not.
Amplified, light
know.
style music.
Yeah,
Yeah.
you're not
More
going to be
than
playing
two
Motley Crue for
musicians.
that.
Not more than two
That's
musicians.
worse
That
than
might be your
decibels, isn't it?
lifestyle.
Not more than two musicians. Is that a winner?
Yes.
sounds like it.
Yeah.
Sounds like a winner.
That sounds
Thank
good.
you. Thank you very much. We appreciate it.
I
Molly,
think
you
the
got
only-
that?
So we got all the music and stuff. Oh, I Okay. The only other thing we had was maybe the screening. Did somebody mention that?
Well, you mean the landscaping screening?
Yeah, between the two properties. Laura, were you talking?
No.
Oh.
I think I brought it up in my
Amy brought
pictures.
it up.
When they applied in 2016, they suggested they would have landscaping that would screen from the adjacent property to the east, and that's why I was just asking.
So those grow 5 feet, you said, Jesse?
Yes.
Is that
Yes,
good for everybody?
it'll grow to the edge of that,
And
of the
actually,
deck.
I think the deck, correct me if I'm wrong, was just completed last year.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Recently.
So you can't plant the plants
Right.
beyond when you planted them.
I couldn't hear you, Dave.
You couldn't have planted those plants in 16 because they just
Oh, no, they
expanded the
just planted
deck
them
this
last
year.
week.
Yeah.
I mean, you would think in an ideal world, you'd want that to grow maybe 10 feet, right? Because nobody's going to look out to the condos. You're going to look out to the lake, right?
But, and most people can't actually see over the railing on the patio. If
once you
you
sit
guys
on
know
it.
how tall it is, most people can't see over that railing.
I sat
You're
in that
more so
corner
looking
Sunday
through.
night, and I agree.
You're tall.
You
You're tall
can't.
too.
I was doing this.
Whoever builds on that adjacent lot's gonna wanna screen themselves.
Yeah.
Yeah,
And the house
true.
is gonna screen the whole thing anyway.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And there is,
I mean,
Yeah.
Yeah.
And again,
I think it's
And if the
fine.
neighbor wants more, the idea is they can do some of their own
Themselves.
screening.
Absolutely.
Yep.
Okay.
Okay. Yeah, I've been trying to build a deck in my home for the last 4 months, and I'm still waiting, so just,
So this one was more important.
Amen.
I make a living out of that one.
Basically the other one.
Okay, so who's going to be the crafter of the motion?
I thought Amy crafted it.
Yeah.
I've got it crafted.
You got it crafted?
Who's going to put their name on it?
All right. I'm going to read what I've got.
Okay.
Okay. Approve live amplified light style music played by no more than 2 musicians on Saturdays and holidays, to stop seating the outdoor dining section at 9:15, with all music to conclude at 10 p.m. and the deck to be dimmed at 10 p.m. Oh, the deck lighting to be dimmed at 10 p.m. Is that sufficient, or am I missing something?
annual.
And
Oh, I had an annual.
reviewed in 1 year.
To come back to the planning commission for review in 1 year.
And with that added, I will so move.
I'll second it.
Is there a second? Okay, is there any discussion?
Well, I'll just say, so by the whole secret in making this permanent is having the discussion, having the neighbors willing to talk to you, or at least respond to, if they want to call their elder person or the police or whatever, that'll all go in a little file and we'll talk about it in a year.
Yeah.
Right? So.
That was Weiler with the second, right?
I second
And that works for you guys too, right?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Good.
All right, all in favor say aye.
it. Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions? Passes.
Thank you very much, appreciate it.
Thank you.
Good luck. Good luck.
Good luck.
Good luck.
Thank you.
I love the gumbo.
I'll second that.
Okay, now we'll move on to 10B, DLC 0742986, West 73 East Wisconsin Avenue, owner of the Boathouse of Lake Country LLC, DLC 0742014, W127E Wisconsin Avenue, owner John Quadin Dodge LLC applicant. Rick Gaseway, Boathouse of Lake Country Real Estate LLC. Applicant is requesting that the Planning Commission schedule a public hearing for an amendment to the conditional use site plan to allow modifications to the existing use and expansion of the physical boundaries of the use. All right, names and addresses?
Yeah, I'll go first. I'm Andy Angara, General Manager at the Boathouse of Lake Country. My physical home address is in downtown Milwaukee, 3668 South Adams Court, Milwaukee, Wisconsin 53207. The establishment in question is W73 East Wisconsin Avenue. That's in Neshota.
Can you please
It's in
spell
the
your
city of
last name?
Delafield.
In the city of Delafield.
Your mailing address might be Neshota, but you're in the city of Delafield.
We can
That's why
conclude
you're
this
here.
real quick.
Yeah, right.
It's
Can you please
Neshota.
spell your last name?
INGARRA.
Sir?
Rick Donner, I'm the attorney for the applicant, 1000 North Water Street, Milwaukee, Wisconsin.
Amy, you want to give us an overview, please?
Sure. Okay, so the applicant is here for a conceptual review, and then if the Plan Commission is comfortable, they would like to schedule a public hearing to amend a conditional use and site plan review. The applicant owns this, on the map, they own the easternmost property, which is bordered in yellow. That property is 1.5 acres. It's used as a boat repair and sales shop. And then they would like to purchase the adjacent property to the west, which is 2.2 acres in size, and it's currently used as a car dealership, so it would no longer be a car dealership. Both of the properties currently operate under a conditional use, so the applicant would need to amend the conditional use, which would include any changes that they're proposing on their existing property, and then also to expand the boundaries. And then as part of that, we would identify the uses allowed on that western piece. They're not proposing a certified survey map to combine the lots. They would like to keep them as two separate parcels, which we can certainly write into the conditional use. And then the operations, the applicant can discuss this a little bit more, may be considered a little separately. I mean, they're one and the same, but they'll have separate meanings. So in the existing conditional use is pretty vague that the boat use has. So we'll definitely go through amendments to be more specific and expand on what it is that they actually do out there. And then just to be clear, the ordinance does allow boat sales, services, and repairs as a conditional use in the B4 district, which I didn't mention. This is in the B4 district, general business district. It's planned for commercial and local business use. Outdoor storage of boats, and marine-related equipment is allowed. When I say outdoor storage, it's not a storage facility, it is a repair and sales shop, but they do keep boats outside in order to do those uses, and then they have transient storage while they're waiting for those boats to be taken off site. But anyway, storage is allowed as long as it's enclosed by fencing, erected and maintained by the owner of the site, which they do have fencing on the back of the property, and it needs to consist of material that will prevent vandalism of the area. And that the area consists of a hard surface to minimize grass fires. And I believe it's gravel right now, correct? Yeah, it's gravel. And they can get an exception from that if the Plan Commission and Common Council approve it. And then they're responsible for weed control, and you have the power to impose restrictions deemed necessary for the individual case. So from there, I do have several things that I think are important for them to address before the next meeting, if you are to schedule a public hearing. But before I go into that, do you want to add any more to the actual proposal?
No, for the most part, that covers everything. We've outgrown that current footprint by a large scape years ago, and we came across this opportunity working with our neighbors next door to expand onto that, kind of invest back into the community, upscale our current footprint, including theirs, and just kind of give that whole area a little bit of a facelift. And we're really excited about that opportunity and continue to grow within the city of Delafield.
So the reason why I don't go into a lot of detail about what they're proposing, they did propose an plan of operation. It is in the packet. But I think it was largely specific to the property they're purchasing, and so it was difficult to know whether or not the number of employees and hours and what they were proposing to do was specific to this, or if it included both pieces. So I did ask them to update that plan of operation before we formally move forward with the public hearing, and also submit a scaled site plan that identifies all existing and proposed hard surfaces, structures, the parking stalls, and which ones are marked, the drive lanes. It'll be important to understand the flow of traffic. They're going to have a lot of boats moving in and around the two sites. Outdoor storage, temporary and permanent. So, storage, you can explain what that means to you in your operation. The location of any fencing, and then where they're proposing the display of boats. The existing conditional use only allows the display of 2 boats in front of the building. That's for the easternmost property. I believe they want to display on the western property too, right? So we'll need to know where and perhaps approximately how many. And then they'll need to submit a site plan and appearance review application as part of that. They may change the exterior colors of the building, so they should submit that information for your review. And then submit the interior floor plan, including the different use areas, so we can determine how many parking spaces are required, because they'll have some showroom space, I guess you could call it retail, some storage, et cetera, so we can determine parking based on that. And then they can submit a detailed business plan of operation, which needs to be very clear about whether or not the hours and employees and all that's including both properties or if they're being considered individually. And then if they're making any changes to lighting, landscaping, signage, which I think they are not proposing very many changes. And then if you could identify that, I don't think we talked about this in our meeting, but the dumpster location and the details of any enclosure if you have one. That's all I have right now. And then I would like to see all that information before we actually set up the public hearing date. So if you're comfortable scheduling a public hearing, it should be scheduled for either the September meeting or whenever the complete materials are submitted. It might not make it for the September meeting.
Right, well, we're still shooting for, we think when we met before, we thought the 14th is what I have.
The deadline, well, so you have to have your materials in, I gotta go back here, before we can publish, we have to have a full packet for the public at the time it gets published.
Sure.
And
Yeah,
we'll publish it on the
September
14th and 21st.
Yeah, we're still, I think we're on target for that date.
Okay. Just so you know, I have to send it to the paper on the Thursday, which is the 9th. So I just we don't want to send it to the paper.
We'll be
for
talking, for sure.
Okay.
Before that.
Amy, did you say still treating it as two separate properties or I mean, what did I miss there?
Two separate, so right now it's two legal lots of record.
Yeah, no,
and they're going to keep them as two legal lots of record. They're just going to operate their business on both properties.
But the business plan will be
One
like
conditional
using the
use,
whole.
one business plan.
Yeah, because the reason I asked that is just some feedback. I think the traffic flow is huge. Like this could be a great opportunity for you guys to really improve. Because today I think it's somewhat dangerous. It's tight, and the boats
along the side of the road and the
cars
dropping
are
them
flying
off.
by. So
We talked about that in the pre-meeting. It's going to
Good.
take some customer training.
Yeah.
Right, but
Yeah.
if they make it easy and a preferred method to be
Yep.
able to do it somewhere else in their layout,
could
I mean,
be
who's
really
going to
good.
want to drop their boat down there
Yeah.
where it's not safe?
Yeah.
That's exactly the goal. Right?
Yep, good.
Questions for the applicant? Things Amy might have missed that have any thoughts or concerns if you've used it or driven by it?
I know it. I've been by it many times.
Yeah, I mean, I've driven by it. I think this would definitely be a help to your business, expanding in that direction. Opens up a lot of doors.
Yep, and like you said, safety as well.
Yeah.
We're extremely
I
excited
just-
about that opportunity. I've got employees that right now are operating tractors, going back and forth across the road or walking themselves across, and you can't really gauge how fast they're driving at all times because it varies different speeds. So I'm excited to offer my employees that safety as well.
And you would be looking at completely eliminating that going
Most
parking.
definitely.
Okay.
Yep.
And if, with your presentation materials for the public hearing and the site plan, it'd be helpful to have a couple of like just some visuals as far as where your display area is going to be for the boats, how it's just so we understand how it's going to look, and that'd be very helpful.
I'll make a motion to schedule a public hearing.
Okay, on
the
next planning commission meeting?
Next planning commission,
September 29th.
on September 29th.
I'll second.
Okay. Any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstention passes.
Good luck.
Okay.
Thank
See
you
you
very
in a
much.
month.
Thank you.
Get to
Thanks
work.
for everyone's time too.
Yeah.
The city's been really great to work with. and support.
Good.
Appreciate it.
Good high visibility.
Okay, we'll move on to number 11, zoning and ordinance revisions. A discussion, potentially schedule a public hearing related to text amendments for the City of Delafield zoning code specification, community-based residential facilities, CBRFs. Amy.
Yay, okay. So at the last meeting, or was it the meeting before, we talked about CBRFs and the Plan Commission had asked for me to bring back some code language that you could adopt just to tighten the regulations a little bit. I am going to propose some changes to what I have in this report for the next meeting if we decide to move forward. So one of the first things to determine is where where are they allowed? And at the last meeting, you talked about prohibiting, so generally, CBRFs with 8 units or less are permitted by right per state statutes. There are some exceptions to that, so we want to be really clear in here. It's not just 8 or less. That you can prohibit them if they are within a certain distance of each other, or if the volume of them exceeds a certain percentage of the population. So I think you want to preserve those provisions.
Yep.
And so we can say something in the header that CBRFs in single or two-family residential districts are allowed only as provided in section blah, 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 Wisconsin state statutes, and just to make sure you're including all of the provisions, and as they may be modified in the future. But then past that, I do, go ahead.
I was going to say, so I'm familiar with the volume. I believe the volume is, it's because we're a city, it's by district, and then 2 by a total in the city as a whole.
I think, yeah.
And so, just so long as the wording says that, I mean, we don't want to disallow them because we're over that volume, but it would have to be at the Plan Commission's discretion, right? Or whatever I mean, what would, because right now the city is at or above the volume that we are technically obliged to carry as a city. I mean, we could say, no, we're over the limit. I mean, I just don't want to write it in such a way that we prohibit CBRFs just because of that volume requirement, but also get the best of both worlds and say, if we think it's too close or there's too many in that district or that area of the city, we should have some discretion as far as helping locate it properly.
Now, and that would only apply to the single and two-family. Otherwise, as we move on, we're allowing them with much greater density elsewhere. Do you want to still leave that? I'll just make sure I
That would kind of still apply.
leave it open
because
to the residential.
So run that by me again. I'm not sure I got that.
Well, so the point is, let's say you don't want to define one area of the city where everyone's like, well, we're going to put another CBRF here and then another
We're talking
one here.
residential, right?
Yeah, in the residential areas.
So there's cap of 8 units or dwellings, whatever the right term is.
Yeah, and you can't, like, the city can regulate it if there's so many of those within a certain area. Like if Tim's district has 30 CBRFs in 2 neighborhoods, you have the ability to regulate it because it's just over.
The state statute
overtaking.
allows
That's the
us
state
to do-
statute
Yes.
that gives us that right.
It doesn't have to be in our code, but it's.
No, the reference, what I'm saying is the reference is perfect.
Okay.
Just so that how we reference it means, as long as it's clear, it's at our discretion to approve or deny based on those volume
Is
limits.
that based on beds or the number of facilities?
Number of beds.
Okay.
It's a percentage
we
of
used
your
to talk in
population.
units or dwellings,
and
but
by
this is
district.
beds, right, Amy?
Yeah, and it's, so by right, you're allowed 8 or less beds,
That
and then
makes
the
more
whole
sense.
volume thing might be based on facilities, though, I don't know, it's kind of
It's
complicated.
residents, I think.
Is it?
Yeah. But so my point is that we shouldn't write it in a way where we can't have any more CBRFs because we've got enough as mandated by law already, but we should be able to leverage the state statute to help guide them in areas that make sense.
Okay.
If I remember it correctly. So, but again, just referencing the state statute is fine. It's fine with me.
Okay. I'll look, so we have a meeting with Attorney Hammes tomorrow. I'll talk to him about that briefly and see if we should add something or just rely on state statutes alone. Okay, so then beyond that, anything other than that, it says in here that all community-based residential facilities may be permitted in all commercial, institutional, and multifamily districts. That would not include the single and two-family residential districts. So, and I'll probably list out each district because, to be very clear, I do not include industrial districts, so that would mean they would be prohibited in industrial districts. You can make a decision to do something other than that. My only comment there would be we just went through this economic development project, and industrial districts have uses have such a low cost of community services. They're highly sought after, and if you give those very few areas that you have in the city up for CBRFs, you may be losing a little opportunity there.
Yeah.
Because there's not a lot of opportunity for industrial use.
Best use.
As a best use. And then the other district that I would maybe think about is your downtown districts, whether or not you want to allow them in your CBD1 and CBD2 district. Kind of this to the same point is it the highest and best use of an area that is, where you're really trying to encourage that commercial and residential and thriving community. These may not be people that are coming and occupying the spaces downtown.
We have one already close to downtown, Clearview.
Yes, you
Well,
do.
is that a CBR?
I don't know what that is. I don't
believe
think it
that's
is.
a CBRF.
I think so.
I think it is.
Yeah, it is.
Yeah,
But I don't think it's.
But
is
it's
it-
outside
It's
the
so few of them.
CBD too,
Yeah,
isn't it?
that's not in.
Oh, is it? Okay. That,
Yeah.
maybe
I'm thinking it is.
I think it's R1.
I'd say I think it's a poor use for CBD.
It's R1.
Yeah, I agree.
Use
I don't
just,
think
it
we want
doesn't,
them
it
in.
doesn't make sense.
No.
Okay, so I can eliminate.
See, having, putting one on the 705 Genesee plot, doesn't make sense for,
I mean, that's a great one down there on
Yeah, it
Milwaukee
is.
Street
Yeah.
because they
It's
can
been
walk.
there.
it's beautiful.
Yeah.
When if there's enough of them, then they can walk downtown.
Yeah,
So that's zoned R1. It would not be.
Permitted.
It would be allowed.
it would be allowed, right?
It would be allowed.
Well, I take that back.
It's more than 8 beds,
Eight or-
though, right?
More than 8
8 or
beds.
less units
But
would
I
be
think-
allowed.
I get your
I
point,
think
if it's under
they're-
8
I don't think
beds.
there are that many.
Well,
I was
no,
going to say, how
because-
many does that one have?
It's
Yeah,
not
but
that many.
that's
Been on
only
a tour,
that's only one of
and
about 6
It's
buildings
close
they
to
were
8.
planning.
It's not that many more.
it
Right,
doesn't
there
look
aren't
like
that
it's
many
that big.
beds in there, but they were planning
They were
more,
planning
right?
like
Little
6, and it could
cottages.
be 8 units
They
each.
have approval to do it.
Yeah,
To do more
But-
already.
They have
Yep.
four or 5 cottages.
Well, those will
Two-
be cottages,
Yeah,
though.
4 people each one.
yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
But regardless
That's a big
of it,
lot, too.
I think the point is to not have them in CBD.
Okay, so not in CBD1 or CBD2 or industrial districts.
Makes sense.
Yeah,
Okay, so that's the first step. And then we're going to skip, I had language for A, I'm going to skip that, I'm going to put that in the leading paragraph and change the wording a little bit. That's where it's saying they're prohibited in residential districts unless exempt by statutes, but I'm going to change that language. And then the next question is, so with the business districts and institutional districts, we're just saying they're allowed, so there's not really like a density cap or anything, but that they have to comply with the standards of the underlying zoning district, so your floor area ratio, open space, setbacks, and offsets, and that the city has the ability to restrict parking as deemed appropriate for the site. It's kind of hard to say that they have to have 1 or 2 parking spaces, because they may not need that. So it gives you the discretion to decide.
Only at Easter.
Maybe.
Mother's Day and Easter.
That's when they come, that's when the parking
the
lots are
visitors.
full.
And then all standards of the site plan and appearance requirements have to be met as part of this. Then there's also a provision about, so when they're allowed in R6 and R7, which are your multifamily districts. We were talking about this a little bit today. So I guess the question, so the way that I would probably recommend writing it in order to control having an over dense use, similar to what was the argument of the city on Castle Living, is to just require them. I know it's not a density unit, it's not a dwelling unit, but we could write it in here that CBRFs in R6 and R7EH, the unit count is equivalent to a dwelling unit for the purposes of this section only. And the reason why that would be valuable is like you need to have 500 square feet of open space per dwelling unit. So they would have to have 500 square feet of open space per unit. And then it also says, this is if you want to be this restrictive. And then there's, both of those districts also have a certain amount of lot area that's required per bedroom. So it would require you to have a larger lot area if you increase the density of the units out there. So I don't know if you want to decide on that today or think about it. It does say, you know, like in R6, maximum number of units per building is 36. So each building that would allow CBRF would only allow 36 units.
I don't think you should do that at all.
Not restricted to
No.
that?
Part of the CBRF is provided, the individual doesn't provide dining, they don't provide, one of the reasons the units are so small is so that they don't want to stay in them. And they want to get out and they want to interact with the other people. Because that's the surest way to send somebody down the road, is to have them live in their unit. And that's why those units are always so small, because they want them to come out and get involved with the community. Most of them have activity areas, you know, where they have play bingo or whatever. And they also, in some cases, administer meds. Now, you come and get your pills and they watch you take them.
They do blood pressure checks.
And they do
too.
blood pressure checks, and they do have big dining rooms.
Yeah, right.
Where on Easter, they can buy the kids dinner.
Yeah. So that's the challenging part, is obviously these are maybe, they could be 400 square foot units instead of your typical 1,000 or whatever. So they're going to be much smaller, which means they could naturally be more dense. It's just hard to then control how many you end up with. But the alternative is to rely on your setbacks, offsets, and height too, which would be,
That makes more sense.
R6 is 30 feet, 30-foot front yard, 15-foot side yards, 30-foot corner yard, 50-foot rear yard. R7, 30-foot front yard setback, 15-foot side yard, 30, 50, they're pretty much the same. You could also say you can only have one if it is a conforming lot. So it has to meet the minimum lot size. Well, that won't work. No, yeah, that doesn't work. It's based on bedrooms.
It's based on bedrooms.
Just took a quick look at the map. I don't think we have any R6 or R7 that isn't already developed.
Yeah, they could always buy something, tear it down.
Now we might recommending this part of another project. Just say, could have more of them. We could end up having more future multifamily.
We could plan one right across the freeway.
There already is in the plan, assisted living.
So we don't have to put a density, you don't have to put a density cap. We could say,
Be a little careful with that too, because if they do it right, even though they're smaller rooms, it could be, like I've been in a lot Towner Crest up by Oconomowoc there, right there on Lisbon. And that looks like a really nice facility, and it's fairly dense, but it's professionally done, So I think if we get into the density game, we might be boxing people in unfairly.
I want to say that, isn't Heritage around, it's between 90 and 110, somewhere in there. Total residents. Now, some of them are independent living, but about half of them, 45, I believe, are assisted living.
126 total.
126 total units. And the unit sizes are just slightly smaller when they get into the assisted. Well, they're a lot smaller.
Typically around 100 units.
But where it is, that's on a small lot for the building size it is, but it's a great, it's a great setup for where it is.
Yep. Good example of.
That's B6.
Yeah, that's.
And so, the things there that would be the factors we'd want to be looking at are the building appearance and size. So some of the size of the building and the traffic and parking were the big issues there.
and that would all be controlled through your site plan and appearance
Yeah,
requirements.
because they could only go so high, right? It was 45 feet or something for the whatever the building height was.
And like Castle Living, that had the 50-some units. It was a beautiful building. If you put that on another property, it was well done for sure.
I think the larger ones I prefer to see near a main artery, though. Just because we know that these are units that are going to need more paramedics, more emergency services, easy access to the hospitals and clinics and that. So I prefer to see them in close to a main arterial road.
Well, and that's where like the business districts generally
Yeah, that's where
are.
B6 is.
Yeah,
Or B6.
most of it.
Well, in
Yeah.
B6, so like, let's say somebody did come in and propose one in B6, there is no density limitation. We're saying you can have them.
Just building requirements.
Building requirements.
Right.
So it's just these multifamily, but if they are built out, maybe it's a concern you don't have to concern yourself with. Other than we might end up with new developments that are zone multifamily. Do you prefer, do you think it matters whether or not like a new vacant property, 100 acres or whatever, and if it got zoned multifamily, do you have a preference of wanting it to be general condominium development versus CBRF or not? Because that would be, you can either deter it or encourage it or
Yeah.
be neutral.
That's a good question, because we've got that property on 83 that we know is going to in time be developed. And I know we talked about a mixed use and that. Could that be a place where we could see one of these?
I think that in the future, if we start amending those zoning districts, that's certainly a possibility.
Yeah.
So maybe we just have to ponder that
As per,
and come back with what we think is the best case. I'm not sure we're going to solve it tonight.
If it's possible, I mean, we're kind of talking through some of the gotchas here. If you can think of us approving it as proposed, or as we've been talking about with our little amendments, like what are some of the extremes we could expect? It'd be really helpful to understand if there's, based on something we're about to pass.
160 beds.
Right.
I mean, I think you could end up
160
with
beds
something
on this.
honestly pretty.
Yeah.
But and where? Like where would our zoning allow that to happen? And what?
Multifamily.
So like show me
Wherever
on a map.
we would create it, just pick you could pick the farmland over on your side of the city, or you could pick the farmland over on Highway 83.
And residential, so we'd have to rezone
It
stuff.
would
is
have
what
to be
you're saying.
rezoned from ag to multifamily, and then this would come into play,
Then
right?
we could do that anywhere, right?
You
I mean,
could.
you could rezone it to whatever zoning you wanted to try to accommodate something.
And if you were looking at doing it into multifamily, the question is, do you prefer condos type things in the multifamily, or CBF, RF and equivalent, equally valued?
And I kind of like the corn, but it doesn't pay taxes. But no, I understand. So
Normally, I probably wouldn't think so hard about it, but we're going to be presenting information from that economic development focus group, and
So we're going to be
there are
introducing some
proposed
new
changes.
things that could bite us if we're just considering this change based on our current zoning, we kind of know what we're looking at.
Yeah.
But if we're about to propose some possible land use changes and zoning changes,
Yeah, that's
we
why
won't
she's
know until
asking
that
the question.
happens.
Yeah.
So, all right.
Just a question, would you, multifamily, condos or CBRF, aren't they equal?
No.
No?
So like institutional residential, at CBRF, those are retirement, those are much higher density and often vertical. They have elevators, sometimes they have underground parking. So it's different, and you wouldn't want that to be in a multifamily district because you need so many square feet of open space or lot area per bedroom or per unit. That's not going to work. It would work in a business district, sort of like what we have up at Heritage, whatever. Condos, sprawling. They're not vertical. They're that way. So they're two different products completely.
Good, thanks for, wasn't thinking that way.
Well, no, it all depends what you want to accomplish.
So what are the suggestions again for possible ways to cap R6 and R7 multifamily?
Well, I mean, there's a lot of different ways to do it, and I mean, to your point, like, how do you know what the impact is? it's hard because of the vertical element of it and not knowing the size of the individual units. If you just base it on setbacks and offsets and you take a 100-acre property, I mean, the buildings could be massive. I don't know if that would really happen, but it kind of just did. It could be a massive building. That's why this original language, it controlled the density, treated it like pretty much a condominium, but that's but that's also going to the other extreme of being fairly restrictive, because those units have to be how much floor area do you typically have to have in a zoning district? Over
You mean
1,000.
of lot area?
No, minimum floor area of like a unit, living space.
Oh, 800 or 900 feet?
So you have to have a
Minimum.
certain amount, and then these people, without having their full kitchens, they may have only 400 square feet, and so they're using less space, which is multiplying the density within the same footprint.
They're not the same is all I'm saying.
Yeah, they're not
400
the same. And
They're not, and so it's hard to apply, you shouldn't apply the same standards.
like Village of Heartland, I think you said, and Brookfield, I think, only allows CBRFs up to 15 or 16 units. That's just it. In the
Wow.
districts that they allow them.
Wow. So you can restrict.
Well, if you.
They have
Could be-
multifamily districts where they allow greater, they have different
Yeah, I was
multifamily
going to say, because
districts,
there's
but
one on Brookfield Road,
It-
right across from the school,
it's probably.
which is about 100, I think it's over 100 units.
Yeah.
Is that the one that's only one level?
It just sounds like
No,
before we
it's
change zoning, we just have to take the impact of a zoning
old-
change
the old
into account
seminary or
for this
whatever.
possibility. If we change it to this, we just have to think about, well, might be what we're going to get.
Yeah, right.
Because you're not going to get it the way things are right now on some of the farmland you mentioned, because it's not, you can't zone it to multifamily right now, right? You'd be asking to do that. Someone would be applying to
Yeah.
rezone it to multifamily, and if we are saying yes to that, we're saying yes to that possibility.
And if they're asking for the rezone, then you have tons of discretion because you have to prove a rezone first.
So I don't see it as a problem then, really. I mean, right? I mean, because we'd be doing it eyes wide
I
open,
agree.
knowing that we can get, if we rezone it, we could get this.
Except that we might be coming in the next couple of months with focus group recommendations that are proposing rezones to multifamily districts. So we might,
I know, and then
What
it
I was
might be
at-
less likely to occur because we made this change.
yes,
Or-
or you give it a different district. I mean, if you really, we could
Right.
somehow give it some other district. I just want to
I was asking the question from a perspective of the habitants of that zone. If you're a condo person in CBRF, you're signing up for a different environment than a single-family home, right? So that's why I was asking, while they're different products, is it the same mindset of what that's zoned for? I don't know.
I don't.
CBRF, you're going in for assistance.
It's institutional.
Yeah, a condo's a condo.
Yeah.
Yeah, somebody's taking care of the
a
outside, but you're
residential.
still totally independent.
And I got stuck in my brain up there at that Towner Crest, like there's the golf course is right there, but if they could put condos next to it, I don't think anybody would think that's a bad zoned situation, right? Because you've got higher density condo apartment-like setting. That's the only reason I was asking the question.
Yeah, I think from a neighborhood perspective, I think the biggest difference is in a CBRF, you could have something that looks a little more institutional versus
Yeah.
resident.
Yeah.
You
More
will.
condominium residential.
You
You
will.
probably will.
You would
So there
expect
is
a
a
lot of
different.
parking,
I think there is a
smaller.
different feel. But Dave, I'm looking at this town of Brookfield. It's not certain multifamily districts. You're allowed 15 or fewer CBRF units by right. So they probably do have
by
a
right.
CU that allows you to go more. Would be my
Yeah.
guess. Heartland, it's a CU for 9 to 15 and it caps out.
In a single-family residential zoning.
And you don't want to go to New Berlin.
Oh, going. I did look at New Berlin.
New Berlin's probably
those
got,
numbers are-
there's one that I'll bet is 500 units.
I think they just have a CU kind of like what you do.
hospital.
Right now, it's pretty open. A lot of communities that have it pretty open.
Are we able to restrict by, without violating any state statute, the number of units in a facility?
Yeah. If you go above, I mean, not 8 or less, if they meet the other statutory standards, but beyond that, yes, you can.
The example is a 100-acre lot. We would, would you want to have it sprawling within the boundaries like was mentioned earlier? Or can you say, here's the cap regardless of the lot size, also restricting then a height, so they're not building a 6-story facility going up?
Height will get restricted no matter what, because we do say in here you have to comply with all the other standards, so they're going to have to meet whatever the.
You have to meet the building
They're not going to
code.
get more than what, a 3-story building. So we're not allowing them in CBD 1 and CBD 2 where they're taller.
Okay.
It's harder than it seems.
Ponder it at the next meeting.
Yes, yeah.
Say, Amy,
That's a lot to think
could you
about.
look
You have the
into
direction you need,
Muskego?
Amy?
Muskego
Yeah, I
has
can.
one, and it's probably, I don't know how many acres it's on. It has a CBRF, it has 2 multifamily buildings, and it has a bunch of 4 families, 4 families, excuse me. And it's a whole
Complex.
So you could move into a 2-family. You don't like that, you go over to the 32 family, and then you end up in the CBRF.
Wonder if you could, I mean,
3 Pillars in Dousman on the corner of 67 and 18. They have 2-family buildings, relatively new, I'd say in the last 10 or 15
Right.
years. They certainly have the big institutional buildings, and I think the intent is you
It's their
start here
campus.
and you just
And you
keep
wo-
moving down.
Right.
yeah.
You're not restricted
Short
to it,
Haven's
but,
like that.
Yeah.
but something,
Progression.
Well, it's a
what,
transition.
what their zoning was that allowed that.
And it
And
may have
under
been,
what
it
condition?
probably was a CU, I can call them. The other thing you can do, so with the new CU law, you're supposed to be as measurable as possible. That's what makes this so challenging, but we could talk to Attorney Hammes to see if we could put in something that provides a little more discretion about, like you guys used it, I mean, the compatibility with the surrounding neighborhood and it having that
Yeah.
based on bulk and what have you. Maybe we could.
That's not the best path.
It's not the best, but maybe there's something a little more sticky. The density piece is, it's hard. Because every lot's different. We'll
Okay.
continue to explore.
All right, we all ready to move on? Okay, we'll move on to number 12, report of city officials, planning commission meeting dates and deadlines. A1, regular meeting, September 29th, 2021. Regular meeting submittal deadline, September 14th, 2021. Refer you to correspondence. Is there a planner's report? No planner's report? Building inspector.
Nothing to report.
Oh, dang.
I'm holding back. Next month.
Sandbagging?
Seaman's gonna be moving dirt this in September.
Good.
All right, seeing no further business, we are now adjourned at 8:33. Thank you, everyone, for participating and watching.
Do you know what's a big gotcha with those?
Go to Old Town Walk.
Those
EDIM at 11:01.